Hello everyone, it's Craig, certified technician here at ApplianceVideo.com. And today we are going to take a look at this GE washing machine, and I will be showing you, the consumer, how to go into consumer fault mode test, as well as take a dive right into diagnostics. So follow me and let's get started. Of course, before we begin this journey, make sure you like and subscribe to give me those brownie points. Now, to enter consumer fault history, what you'll want to do is make sure the unit is in an idle state, and then you'll want to press and hold on the start key until your LEDs start to illuminate. This will show us that we are in consumer fault mode. It is important to note that while we are in this mode, your pause and lid lock LEDs should be consistently blinking. There are multiple fault codes that you can find inside the system, and they'll range anywhere from 1 to 99. Your status LED here will show a sequence of numbers depending on what fault code we have inside of it. The first fault example I will go over is fault number 1. This is for a lock monitor. This is going to pop up if you're having mode shifter feedback issues. Of course, if this fault code pops up, you'll definitely want to call a technician. Now, to go to the next fault code, you'll simply press start, and every time you press it, a different number will pop up, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, corresponding to whatever faults could be inside the system. So we have 1 as a lock monitor, we have 2 as a lid monitor. This will usually be an indication that we're having a problem with the power relay on the board. Since there are so many fault codes, I'm going to go over them rather quickly, but I will show an emphasis on the ones that are more important to the consumer. We have a 3 for an inverter locked rotor. We may have a 4 for a low power relay, or a 5 for a mode shift error code. The mode shift error code can be pretty common if something happened with your mode shifter underneath. We may have an error code 6. This is for a critical flood level by pressure. If this is your error code, what I would recommend doing is testing out the unit and drain multiple times. What I've found during these pressure error codes is a lot of times the drain pump will intermittently fail, causing it to trip this error code. So first and foremost, check your drain pump. We have a 7 for a power relay stuck on. Again, we have an 8 for a pressure sensor loss. Once again, any pressure error codes, make sure you check your drain pump first. We have an error code 9 for a lid switch redundancy. This is a big error code to pop up for consumer problems, because if you try to start the unit 3 consecutive times with the lid open, this error will pop up. We have a 10 for a mode shift feedback error, a 15 for a temp sensor invalid. A more common error code you may find would be a drain pump cleaning, which is error code number 18. Make sure you check inside your drain pump to ensure that there are no items inside. Sometimes I'll find a sock or maybe some type of piece of article of clothing in there, causing it to have low drain flow. We have a 19 for a UI state timeout, a very common consumer error code, because if you leave your UI on, it's going to time out eventually. 20 for a critical flood level by gallons. Make sure your unit is not leaking, and again, make sure your drain pump is working properly. Numbers 22 and 26 will pop up if you have out of balance loads. Since this unit is an HE unit and works off of hanging suspensions, it's very easy for clothes to get to one side of the drum, causing the unit to go off balance. If this happens, these 2 error codes may be inside the system. Make sure you go to your unit, press down on your drum to make sure it goes down and comes up and it doesn't bounce. As long as it's not bouncing, it's usually your articles of clothing that is causing this. 23, 24, and 32 would indicate that you have a problem with the lid lock. This washer has a lot of issues with the lid lock mechanism. If you have this error code, call for service and be prepared to spend a pretty penny. We have numbers 27 and 29. 27 is a water level error and 29 is a suds error. Both of these can happen if you have low water pressure coming to your unit. So if you have 27, make sure you take the water lines off the back to ensure that you have good water pressure and that your screens are not clogged. 29 usually is if you're using too much soap. If you're using too much soap, a lot of suds can build up inside your washing machine, tricking the system and throwing one of these error codes. So ensure that you're using the proper amount of soap and HE detergent as well. Number 30 a common one. This is going to be a stuck UI button. A lot of times I'll see consumers trying to start the machine. It might hold into the power to start just a little too long, causing this error code to pop up. We do have inverter faults on here. They'll range anywhere from 33 to 75. There are multiple error codes for inverters. Make sure you refer to your tech manual and call for service if this is the case. And of course, we have accelerometer faults, which will range anywhere from 35 to 90. And there's about 10 different error codes in there for accelerometer. And of course, these error codes go all the way down to error codes in the 90s, with the more common one being 95 for communication error. If we do have 95, that means that there's an issue between the UI and the main control. Make sure you call for service. Now, if you do have any error codes inside the system and need to find out which one is which and you do not have the tech manual, you can obtain it by either calling the manufacturer or posting the model number and that you need the actual tech manual inside the repair help section on ApplianceVideo.com. So let's go ahead and jump to the next section here. Now that we are done with the consumer section, go ahead and unplug your machine, wait about 3 to 5 minutes, and then plug it back in. Now, to enter the actual diagnostics portion, what we'll want to do is press and hold on the start button while turning your cycle selector 7 clicks and then releasing, and all of your LEDs will turn on, showing you that you are in diagnostics. To go through diagnostics, we'll use the rotator, boom, 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 to change settings. And once again, they're all numbered 1 through whichever number of the tests that we need. So again, once we are in diagnostics, all of your LEDs will blink. But once you turn it, number 1 will pop up on the display. 1, if we press start, will go into the fault codes. We've already went over the fault codes, so we'll skip past it and go to number 2. This is personality ID. We do not want to go into that section. This is pretty much a technician portion. The same with 3, 4, and 5. But if we go over to test number 6, this is going to be your main hot water valve. If you're having problems with your water system, make sure you turn on your hot water valve to ensure you do have good hot water pressure coming through the machine. And of course, there are a couple other valve portions that we can test here. Number 9, we're going to have a custom add dispenser valve. Each one of these portions, in order to toggle through it, you'll want to press start. When you press start, it'll turn it on. You press start, it'll turn it off. If you do press start and you forget about it, it'll also time out within about 1 minute. If we turn the cycle selector one more time, we're going to go to test number 10. Test number 10 is a pressure sensor test. If you do have one of your pressure errors or a drain error, it is imperative that you go through this test. Press start, it'll automatically go through and different LEDs will illuminate as it fills with water. Make sure it goes through the sequence, fills up, and finishes this whole test. If you have a pressure error and this test goes through good, once again, check out your drain pump. Which leads me to the next test, test number 12. Test number 12 is your drain pump. Once you've already filled the unit with water because you're doing the pressure test, you might as well drain it out. This is a great test, let it finish, and then we'll go to the next one, which is number 13. Number 13 is a lid lock test. Imperative test is a very common part to go bad and a very common error code in the machine. When engaging this test, you'll simply press start. When the lid is opened, the spin status LED will blink, but when the lid is closed, the rinse status LED will blink. Going to test number 14. Test number 14 is a spin test. When you press start, it'll take a minute, it'll drain any water out, and then of course it's going to lock the lid. So it is imperative that you had the lid closed, and then it will run a full spin test for you. Number 15 is an agitate test. Once again, your lid must be closed, and then of course it will lock when going through this agitation test. This is a great test. Make sure you listen for any type of noises. Kind of make sure you don't have any smells during this test to ensure that your motor is not overheating. Going to test number 16. This is a clear your fault codes test. If you did have fault codes inside the system, especially if you have fixed something accordingly, make sure you clear your fault codes every single time so that next time you go into diagnostics, the most recent error codes will be the actual error codes we need to look at. We have 17 for change personality. Do not mess with this. We have number 19, which is your dosing pump. By pressing start, it's going to test out that soap dispenser dosing pump to make sure nothing's wrong with that. And of course, the last test, which is test number 20 for water quality sensor. I wouldn't mess with this as a consumer. This is more of a technician-oriented test. Of course, this is going to get us to the end of diagnostics here, and this is going to finish up today's video. So make sure you unplug your machine, plug it back in after about 5 minutes. Again, YouTube, if you enjoy my content, make sure you like, subscribe, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time.